Blog Talk Radio. Blog Talk Radio.
Franchise interviews. From Easton, Pennsylvania to Sydney, Australia, you're listening to Franchise Interviews. Franchise Interviews. Welcome to Franchise Interviews. Franchise Interviews has been giving an up-close, behind-the-scenes look at franchising and entrepreneurship. Listen to interviews with franchisers, franchisees, franchise authors, franchise experts, and attorneys. And now, welcome your host, Marty McDermott, and Franchise Interviews.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to a very special edition of Franchise Interviews, where for over 8 years, we've been asking the Franchipreneurs one-on-one. I'm your host, Marty McDermott. I'm the president of Franchise Interviews, and we have a great show today. We're meeting with Tony Lutfi, the CEO of the Marlu Investment Group. At the Marlu Investment Group are franchise owners to systems like Arby's, Church's Chicken, Jack in the Box, Sears Appliance and Hardware Stores, Sears Home Appliance Showrooms, Sears Outlet Stores, Little Caesars, Sizzler, and more. We're going to talk to Tony about that in just a moment on Franchise Interviews. So stick around because we got a great show.
Franchisers, are you looking to reach aspiring entrepreneurs looking to buy a franchise? Are you looking to reach a highly educated audience on franchising? For over 8 years, Franchise Interviews has been giving an up-close, behind-the-scenes look at franchising and entrepreneurship through our website, franchiseinterviews.com, where you can hear and read interviews as well as get tips from some of the most successful sources in franchising. Our weekly franchise radio show, where each week you get to hear a new interview with franchisers, franchisees, franchise authors, franchise experts, and attorneys, and our podcast, Great Quotes in Franchising. For more information, go to franchiseinterviews.com or call us at 610-905-2919. That's 610-905-2919. Franchise Interviews. From Easton, Pennsylvania to Sydney, Australia, you're listening to Franchise Interviews. Franchise Interviews.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to a very special edition of Franchise Interviews, where for over 8 years, we've been asking the Franchipreneurs one-on-one. I'm your host, Marty McDermott. I'm the president of Franchise Interviews, and as we were saying earlier, we have a great show today. We're meeting with Tony Lutfi, the CEO of the Marlu Investment Group. At the Marlu Investment Group are franchise owners to systems like Arby's, Church's Chicken, Jack in the Box, Sears Appliance and Hardware Stores, Sears Home Appliance Showrooms, Sears Outlet Stores, Little Caesars, Sizzler, and more. Hi, Tony. How you doing? Welcome to the show.
I am doing well. How are you?
I'm doing well, Tony. It's great to have you on the show. You wouldn't know this, but we've been hosting this show now for 8 years, and I think you've been referenced about 8 to 10 times on the show. So forgive me if I feel like I know you, because I've been following your career for quite some time now. So thanks for coming on the show.
Well, thank you. We appreciate it.
That's my pleasure. We would like to ask our guests, where are you calling from this morning, Tony?
I am calling from Sacramento, actually Elk Grove, just about 10 miles south of Sacramento, California.
Oh, that's fantastic. How's the weather there today, Tony?
It's actually cloudy, but expected to be good. We're 2 days before Christmas, and we're looking forward to hopefully good weather on Christmas Day.
That's fantastic. Well, it's cold here in Pennsylvania, but that's, I guess, to be expected. You have a great story, Tony. I mean, maybe we can go back to the beginning, and you can tell us about your history in franchising. When did you begin working or investing in a franchise, and what initial franchise concepts did you invest in?
I'll tell you, most of us in the franchising world end up being franchisees really by default. I don't know that anybody grows up going to school and college with the idea and the plan that they want to become franchisees. For me, it was really life just taken its course. I started out as an immigrant, as an employee with Jack in the Box, washing dishes at age 16 while going to school, and eventually became a restaurant manager and a training manager. And my career took place. I quit school and eventually became a supervisor and vice president of a company. And in the early 90s, I became a partner with a large investment group where we operated 78 Arby's in Northern California. So by the mid-90s, I decided to go out on my own and purchase 2 Arby's restaurants and operated them in 1996.
Right.
So we went from 2 locations in 1996 to where we are today, over 208 locations in 11 states.
It's amazing, isn't it? I mean, it really is. I guess you could say, I mean, it is the American dream, isn't it, Tony? I mean, again, the several times that we've referenced you on the show, I mean, it really is the American dream, isn't it? It
really is. I suppose nowadays it could happen anywhere, but it can't happen any way better than it does in the U.S. For me, being an immigrant with limited education at that time and really hardly any money, somebody mentored me along the way, and I was able to find a breakthrough and took advantage of it. So really, it is the American dream. I speak in a lot of conferences, and when people tell me, what is it that you do? And I say, I'm living the dream, because I really feel that I'm living the dream.
Absolutely. You were talking about your mentor early on, and I guess that was Bill Brussian, because we have, again, mentioned your story on the show before. And he said something interesting, Tony, on the show. Is he mentioned that the only way you can build wealth is through investment, not by working for a salary. And I guess that had a pretty big impact on you, didn't it?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We, I was faced with an opportunity where I had just bought the 2 restaurants and finally, reached my dream. And I had an opportunity to go work for a public company, and they offered me an incredible salary with an amazing bonus. And I called Bill Bruslin at the time, and I asked for his advice. And he says, Tony, look, if you want to build wealth, you could only do it by owning businesses and making an investment. You could always make money, but building wealth is different. And really, that stuck with me all these years, and I still listen to his words, even though he passed 2 years ago. I still listen to his words in my head, repeating the same thing. And sure enough, for me, it has been the case. Certainly, all of us can work for a living and make money, but building wealth and paying off investments and being able to finance large projects is not something that the average person can do, but it takes a lifetime worth of work to get to the point to where you have the infrastructure and really the financing ability to be able to do these projects that we've been able to do on a large scale.
It's amazing. If you go back to the beginning, Tony, I mean, were your goals, I mean, today, I mean, you're as large as like 200-plus units, but I mean, back then, I mean, when you go back to the beginning, I mean, was that your goal in the beginning, or was this kind of like just like a natural progression over time?
It's both. Really, when in the early 90s, when I finally became a partner, a 10% partner of a small company, I wanted to get to 50 units before I turned 50. So I don't know if that goal was really feasible in my head, but that was the dream. But the goal, the most important part of it was I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I wanted to be independent, and I wanted to allow my ability to manage people and work with people to develop into something that was bigger. I didn't know the size, nor did I plan for it to be a number of revenue, whether it's 10 million or 5 million, whatever it was. It was really finding a way to make a living and support my family, at the same time satisfying my personal need, which is to be an entrepreneur. And really, once that took place, it was more about the opportunities that came our way. And I always say the difference between opportunity and regret is being ready. So if you're ready, you see the opportunity as an opportunity. Otherwise, you spend a lifetime regretting the fact that you missed the opportunity. So to me, it's about being ready. And I've always worked so hard to make sure that we are ready for whenever that opportunity came our way.
That's fantastic. We have this great quotes and franchising podcast. We're gonna put that quote in there, Tony, if you don't mind. I think that is very powerful. Maybe we could talk a little bit about your company. I mean, the Marlu Investment Group. I mean, they're larger than many franchise chains. How do you maintain healthy operations, and what's your corporate structure like, Tony?
Well, thank you for asking that. I think we're in the people's business. That's the first thing that I try to remind myself every single morning. I think that we are committed. If you look at our logo, it's really 4 equal triangles made up in a large triangle. Right. And those triangles stand for the pillars of our business. And the pillars of the business are really for any business, if you think about it. It's really taking care of the customer, taking care of your employees who take care of the customer, taking care of the brands and protecting the brands and the image where the customers and the employees live, work, and shop, and then finally making sure that you have a profitable organization that can pay its debt and take care of the employees. So really, those are the pillars on how we manage the business, and we try to make decisions every single time that almost contributes equally to every one of those pillars. I think often when people get in trouble, they begin to make decisions based on the moment, and they make a decision to satisfy a problem for the next 5 days or 10 days or maybe 5 months or 10 months. We try to make decisions for the next 20 years to be sure that what we're doing is really the right thing to do for the brand, for the customers, for the employees, and for the organization. So really that's been our mentality. As for the structure, because we operate multiple brands and we operate in multiple states, it has become necessary for us to have a brand champion or a director that operates in the market where we do business. So in each market, whether it's Phoenix, Tucson, Las Vegas, Sacramento, San Francisco, Seattle, Portland, St. Louis, Kansas City, wherever we are, champion. And this individual, whether it's a he or she, typically are a seasoned individual that understands the business, has a great communication skills, and is able to make decisions almost like a CEO of his own company, but at the same time communicate with us on a daily basis. So this way we are aligned in the strategy and also in the tactical moves that we make, whether they may be marketing, cost control, pricing, and or franchising issues. So for us, it's really the structure that we've designed. But at the same time, we have a support center in El Grove, Sacramento, where we employ almost 30 individuals, and our main purpose is to support our managers and our directors by providing them with the tools and the information that is necessary for them to do the jobs that they need to do in managing these businesses. So really it's become very complicated as we are today, but the plan was the same. From the time that we were 2 restaurants till today, it's providing the tools that are necessary for the people that are serving the guests so they can find easy success.
That's very powerful. You mentioned it sounds like, most of your units are located along the West Coast. Is that where you're pretty much set up, Tony?
Yes, it started out by being clearly an operator in California, and then eventually we moved into Nevada and then Phoenix and Texas. But really the idea was to maintain positioning in the Southwest. And really originally, in the early days, I wanted to be sure that we were involved with franchises that were in business for at least 25 years, faced failure at least once and survived, meaning that they have a relationship between them and the consumer that even management couldn't negatively impact. We wanted to be in metropolitan areas where population was at a growth path. We wanted to be within an arm's reach, and that's being, to be able to get there within an hour or 2-hour flight. Right. And then we wanted to be in weather areas that didn't have the dramatic changes and was somewhat more predictable. As you know, in the Northeast, it becomes very unpredictable because of the weather conditions. But, you consider San Diego and Southern California, the weather is pretty much consistent throughout the year. So we felt that we needed to do business in areas where things were more predictable. But since that time, we've experimented with Kansas City and St. Louis, and those are areas that are not necessarily within our range and a little bit outside of our range, but the market was ripe for us, and we were able to get a pretty good deal on these investments, and we thought that at the time that the opportunity outweighed the risk, and we made the decision, and so far it's been just amazingly successful for us.
That's fantastic. You're listening to Franchise Interviews, and we're speaking with Tony Lutfi, the CEO of the Marlu Investment Group. Have you got your family involved in the business at all, Tony?
Yes. I have 3 children. They're all boys. My oldest one is Metri. He is now 29 years old. He's the franchisee of record with Jack in the Box, operating 21 Jack in the Boxes. And then my second one graduated as a civil engineer, but he's also working with us operating 50 Arbys in the Northwest and Southern California. In addition to that, I have both my brothers and my sister that work in the support center. And my nephew, who has been really my partner all these years, started working with me when he's 19. He's now 40, so he's been with me for 21 years. And he's really the heart and soul of our organization. He and I work in tandem, so he finishes the sentences that I start, and I do the same thing for him. So the two of us really have built this organization, and really it's become a family business more than anything else. And when we talk about family, we don't necessarily just consider the blood, the children and the relatives. We think of everybody as family. Now we have a family of 5,000 employees, and we're proud of each and every one of them.
That's fantastic. What franchise brands are you focusing your growth on today, Tony?
I think all of them. Mm-hmm. You know, we have development commitments with almost every brand. Currently, we are under an agreement with Arby's to develop 10 additional units. We just signed an agreement with TGI Fridays to develop 5 additional units, and we have 6 remaining on the development agreement with Churches. And with Sears, it's more about acquisition rather than development. Yet at the same time, we have one being developed in Corona, California, because we ended up closing one unit due to lease, so we're opening another one here shortly within the next 120 days. And so really from a development perspective, you always have to develop, because what happens is neighborhoods change over a period of 20 years.
Right.
And what used to be good business at one time may or may not continue to be good business. So if you don't develop and continue to grow your organization, eventually the facilities get old and the neighborhood changes, and it's just a matter of time until you go out of business. So you continuously have to evolve and grow in our business or in the franchising business in general.
Was that part of the mindset, Tony, in getting involved in Sears? I mean, were a lot of people surprised? I mean, because typically, you know, you were very much, you know, a large part of your career, even when you first came here, was in food. I mean, what was the mindset, and what has that been like for you, you know, and getting involved with Sears?
You know, we built our organization based on diversification and really seeking opportunity. So after the recession in 2007, 2008, and what went on with the homes in America, I felt that, you know, the real estate cycle was a 7-year cycle or a 15-year cycle, depending on how you look at it, 7 years up and 7 years down. So I felt that the cycle will soon turn, and then people will begin to build homes and buy homes. And the life cycle of appliances is 7 to 10 years. Not necessarily that these appliances fall apart, but the families grow and they give them to their children and buy new appliances and upgrade their kitchens and so forth. So I met with Sears in one of the conventions in Las Vegas, and the idea intrigued me in a big way. So I took about 3 months to do all the research, and I came back and thought, you know, it just makes sense. And we ended up signing a deal with them to acquire 13 locations in Texas and St. Louis. And today we operate 40 of them, and we sell almost $200 million in appliances on an annual basis. So we, you know, we felt that it was the right business. And then Sears, as you know, sells the vast majority of all appliances in America today. And they own the brand Kenmore, and there's one Kenmore in every 3 homes in America today. So we felt that being involved with a great, reputable company like Sears that has a reputation with and the relationship with the consumer and owns brands that are only owned by Sears, we felt that we would have a huge advantage. And then, of course, knowing the people business and knowing how to hire quality employees and how to keep quality employees, we felt that learning the retail was not the difficult part. Managing the people was always the difficult part. So we felt that we could do the people side of the business, and it would just take us a few months to learn the retail side of the business, and in fact we did.
That's fascinating. We had Sears on the show, and it was funny when I had the gentleman on. We were coincidentally, it was like 3 or 4 weeks ago. Our washing machine just went after the 10-year mark, and of course we went to Sears, and of course we purchased again more. So you're right about that. That 7 to 10-year mark. It was almost like 10 years to the date. So it's really fascinating. Are you thinking of investing in other non-restaurant franchises, Tony?
Not at this point, because we have such a large commitment with each of the brands that we currently serve. I think it becomes a little more difficult to manage. So we are careful to be diversified, but at the same time, keep it somewhat manageable. And at this point, because of the commitment and the reimage demand that we have, I think getting involved with any other retail would be probably a little too difficult for us. Yet I could tell you that if I were to choose, I would certainly be focused more on retail and probably would focus on places where we sell shoes. I think that's a huge demand, and there's an incredible amount of profit in it. But really, I think I'm satisfied from the retail perspective because my forte has been restaurants and serving people.
That's fantastic. There's so many franchise systems out there today, Tony. When we started the show, and you've been involved in franchising a long time now, when we started the show, I think the number that they used to give was about 1,500 or 1,600 different systems, and I think today they're even saying there's 2,500 to 4,000 different systems. Are you surprised at all the different types of franchises that are out there today?
I am not surprised. I'm concerned a little bit. I'm not surprised because the whole idea of success in the franchising business is the process of duplication. Sure. So you find something that works and you build it to become successful, and then the idea is to repeat it over and over again. As I travel throughout America and the United States and the small cities, you realize that we are a country of villages. And all of them are the same. So wherever you go in and you see a Jack in the Box and a McDonald's and a Burger King and an Arby's, you go into the next town and you see the same thing. So I am not surprised. I worry sometimes about these young companies that really have not proven themselves out. And they've only had 1 or 2 models, and they're 3 years into their 10-year, and suddenly they want to go into franchising, and they go out there and sell their story. I think that's a little concerning for me. Some of them will be greatly successful. The vast majority may fail, and I don't want to be on the risk side. Sure. So while I'm not surprised, I'm a little concerned. Sure, absolutely. I think that's a great response. The majority of our listeners, we call them aspiring franchipreneurs, Tony. I mean, they know that they want to get into franchising, and I think that is one of the challenges. Is there's so much out there today that most of them don't even know where to begin. And you've been so successful in franchising. What advice would you give to our listeners in their quest to buy a franchise? I would say follow your passion, number one. I think your passion should be the driver of all decisions made. It should not be necessarily the money or the empire that you're willing to or you aspire to build. It should be your passion. You should be able to wake up every single morning and look forward to doing what you do. And ultimately, if you're because we are surrounded with experts, and they're all willing to help, and they're all willing to mentor, some of them for free, some of them for a fee. But you will have all of the help that you need, but you have to love what you do. When you don't love and enjoy what you do, even if you have success, ultimately it's misery. So to me, it's more about the passion. And the second piece is working with people. Regardless of what franchise you're going to be involved in, ultimately you have to work with people, whether they are employees, partners, customers, or the franchisor. You have to have the ability to work with people and compromise on some of the topics, because ultimately everybody needs to be somewhat right. And the ability to negotiate and reach a fair compromise is always an asset. So for me, it's about passion and people always.
And it sounds like, even in your early days, Tony, of, when you were working in a franchise, as just an employee, it sounded like there was something about it that there was a spark there. You liked it. I remember you mentioning in an interview that, it was just fun for you, like listening to all the people talk, and it was always busy, and you seemed to like that, didn't you?
I in the restaurant of fast food, because as an immigrant in my early days, I was not too talkative,
right,
and I was a little shy. So yet when it was really busy, that was where I was at my best, because I could really participate and I could help and I could serve the customers and they would smile back at me, and it really helped me develop my personality in due time.
Right.
So
right.
really, it's that piece of it for me that has been the most rewarding, is working with people and knowing that I could make a difference in their lives.
That's fantastic. What's the best way for our listeners to get more information on you and your company, Tony? I mean, is there any website they can go to? There's a lot of information on you personally on the Internet, but is there any websites that they can go to get more information on the Marlu Investment Group?
Yes, we have a website. It's the website is marlugroup.com.
Okay.
So it is available. It is running 24 hours a day. So we have not updated it with the most recent acquisition, but I would say in the next 2 weeks we would have updated it with the TGI Fridays. That's
fantastic. I actually met my wife at a TGI Fridays, so it always has a special place for us, in our hearts. So I think that's fantastic. I want to thank you again, Tony, for coming on the show. This has been a privilege for me. I've done 400 of these interviews, and you are one of the individuals that I've always wanted to interview. So it's a thrill for me to be talking to you right now, and I want to thank you again for coming on the show. It's a real privilege.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you taking the time to meet with us. Thank you very much.
That's my pleasure, Tony. We'll be right back with more franchise interviews.
Franchise interviews. From Easton, Pennsylvania to Sydney, Australia, you're listening to Franchise Interviews. Franchise Interviews. Franchisers, are you looking to reach aspiring entrepreneurs looking to buy a franchise? Are you looking to reach a highly educated audience on franchising? For over 8 years, Franchise Interviews has been giving an up-close, behind-the-scenes look at franchising and entrepreneurship through our website, franchiseinterviews.com, where you can hear and read interviews as well as get tips from some of the most successful sources in franchising. Our weekly franchise radio show where each week you get to hear a new interview with franchisers, franchisees, franchise authors, franchise experts, and attorneys, and our podcast, Great Quotes in Franchising. For more information, go to franchiseinterviews.com or call us at 610-905-2919. That's 610-905-2919.
Need a business loan? Talk to Diamond Financial Services, the experts in franchise financing nationwide. Whether you're looking to start a franchise, acquire an existing franchise, or expand your territory through opening new locations, Diamond Financial stands by your side start to finish. From pre-qualification to packaging and presenting your application to securing a financial commitment, and through the loan closing process, Diamond Financial is there. While you're waiting, thousands of others are making their financial dreams come true. Don't wait any longer. Pre-qualify now by completing a confidential, no-obligation financial analysis. Let's face it, traditional banks just aren't in the business of financing small business. At Diamond Financial, we specialize in securing franchise loans from $100,000 to $3 million and equipment leasing up to $150,000. Let us help you get started. Go to www.franchisefunding.net or call 877-508-2274. That's franchisefunding.net, 877-508-2274.
Hi, everyone. This is Marty McDermott from Franchise Interviews, and welcome to another edition of Great Quotes in Franchising. For each podcast, you get to hear a great quote in franchising. You know, Don and I have been hosting Franchise Interviews for years and slowly approached, if you can imagine. And during that time frame, we've had some incredible quotes on the show. Today, you're going to get to hear from a king. And how often do you get to hear from a king? We'd be speaking to the Franchise King Joel Libava. And we had Joel on our show 2 times in the last 4 years. And he really is probably one of the most knowledgeable people on the topic of franchising. Of course, Joel gave his opinion on as far as like what to do once you get the FDD, the importance of first impressions. So listen to what Joel had to say. I think you'll be very interested.
Well, it's real life stuff. You know, I've worked with hundreds of people in the past several years, and the ones that have followed the process the right way and decide to get into franchising are definitely more prepared than folks that are just going to go out and buy a Subway or something. Nothing wrong with Subway, but to go out and buy a Subway just because they think it's popular. You know, they don't do the research. The research is the key.
Sure, absolutely. And I think most people, Joel, not to be condescending to our listeners, but I think they simply just don't know how to research, and it shows exactly like in a step-by-step process how to do all that, It's just so important, the research process.
It is.
I mean, it's intimidating. I mean,
it is intimidating.
It's a whole life-changing. It's a big investment, or it could be. And then you're getting all this information. Someone needs that coach, that person, that consultant to help them. So they call up a franchise. The FDD gets delivered to them. What do you suggest that they do from there, Joel?
Well, they're going to get they'll reach out to the franchisor, and the franchisor hopefully will follow up within a day. And they'll get a packet in the mail, and the franchisor will ask them nicely to look it over, and then to schedule a conference call.
Right.
And that first conference call, I think, is one of the most important parts of the whole process. The franchisor isn't really doing any selling at that point. They're kind of seeing if they like you, and you're kind of feeling things out to see if you like them, just kind of as a person first. Because you're going to be interacting for weeks with this franchise director.
Do you recommend that the buyer prospect, the franchisee, does their homework and knows quite a bit about that franchise they're looking at, or is that still a little too soon?
A little too soon. At first glance, people are attracted to certain franchise opportunities because they think they're popular, or they think that they're needed in their neighborhood, or they've heard about something. Just approach it with an open mind. Get the brochure, whether it's electronic or whether it's snail mail, and look over the brochure, write some questions down as you go, and that way you're prepared for the conference call. But the research part, you're just at the beginning. See if you like what the franchise director has to say first.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, I can't tell you how many times I've been in like a Dunkin' Donuts, Joel, or a Subway, and just standing on line, and someone next to you says, "God, I wish I owned one of these."
Wish I had one of these. Yeah.
Right, just because it's the fact that it's crowded,
Right.
It's a terrible reason to
terrible
franchise,
Terrible reason. What are the chances that you have something in common with the owner of that Dunkin' Donuts or that Subway? It looks good on the outside, and there's nothing wrong with the food franchise, but I hope you know what you're getting into.
Right, absolutely.
And that's where you come in, to really do all the behind-the-scenes things, and to make sure they're asking themselves all the questions that maybe they haven't thought of. That's going to be imperative to make sure they're happy in whatever business they choose.
That's right. And I don't know if you went down far enough on the page that I have set up for the book, but a good friend of mine, Sean Kelly, who's also another pretty popular franchise blogger, suggested that I include a half hour of my time for people that invest in this book, and that's what I've done. So people can arrange to talk to me for a half hour on the phone and bounce their ideas off of me. I'm not going to sell them anything. I'm not going to try to switch them to an opportunity that I work with. I just want to talk to them and tell them that, you're doing the research the right way. You're headed the right direction.
Exactly.
So I'm doing that now.
And I guess, and this is something Marty and I have preached on, just about every show, that when someone's researching a franchise, it's so imperative to call and speak to the other franchisees. That's listed in the FDD, and you even recommend going to visit the franchisees and to just ask a lot of questions. Why should someone do all this?
It's amazing that a lot of people that I've talked to that have come to me a little too late and said, boy, Joel, I wish I would have talked about you, or I wish I would have known about your book, they all say the same thing. Oh, I didn't talk to any franchisees.
Incredible.
And I said, why not? Well, the franchise director, they said I didn't have to, or, I'm perfect for the business. You got to talk to the people that are actually doing it and that took the risk already. That's what it's about. These people took the risk. They're not getting paid by the franchise company to say good things. Right. So talk to the people that are doing the business. See if there's some stuff in common.
Yeah, and I think that's something that helps you sleep better at night, Joel, is it kind of gets rid of that nervousness, because this is a very big investment, It's just a lot of times, Don, and I think you as well, you compare it to a marriage,
Yeah.
It's that big, so it really is so important that you have all the facts, and I suspect that there's a lot of people out there that don't have all the information that they actually need to make the decision.
No, and they're making the decision on emotion. They're
Exactly.
not making it on facts.
Absolutely, so.
And what's the percentage of people who eventually invest in a franchise? It's over 90% that they never initially considered that franchise or industry to begin with.
Well, the ones the ones that work with folks like myself, most of them are definitely in franchises they never really thought of or might not have heard of, but the skill set matches. But there's still a lot of people out there, you guys, that just buy a franchise because it's branded, it has a name, or they really think that it would be perfect in this shopping center.
Right.
And they're the wrong match for the business.
Exactly.
So they fail.
It's interesting. Joel, you do a nice job at explaining the different finance arrangements that are out there, and you even include ways to talk to your local bankers. Can you tell our listeners why that's so important?
Thanks, everyone, for listening, and we'll see you next week with another edition of Franchise Interviews. Take care, everyone.